to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Do you know what to do if you think you might have COVID-19? Or what to do if you know you've been exposed? Here's how you can help protect your community. Stay home if you're not feeling well, even if you have mild symptoms. If you were in contact with someone who's sick, stay home while you watch for symptoms. Help may be available to get groceries and supplies. Get tested as soon as you can. Free testing may be available. Respond quickly when a contact tracer gets in touch. An interviewer will ask about people you've been in close contact with. You can follow these 3 steps to help find and stop the spread of infections. When everyone in your community does their part, businesses and schools can reopen safely. Find a testing location and learn more at coronavirus.wa.gov.
Women are not an homogenous group.
We face discrimination differently depending on factors such as ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, and more.
Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to amplify women's voices.
They are the experts of their own lives, initiating conversations within their community about challenges they face, the solutions they're working on, and the opportunities they see.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 for Women's Voices on Air. We know our challenges. We are the experts of our lives.
We are master multitaskers, prioritizing our family, friends, and our faith above our own needs.
Our needs and voices are too often overlooked.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. for Women's Voices on Air.
We tell our stories in our own way.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
In an effort to boost vaccination rates among a skeptical public, Bulgaria has opened up COVID-19 inoculation to all who want them. For NPR, Bulgaria first began administering the shots on December 27th. Before the mass vaccination campaign begins, Bulgaria had one of the lowest vaccination rates in Europe, with fewer than 1% of Bulgarians having taken the first dose and fewer than half of those fully vaccinated as of February 14th. Since the mass vaccination campaign began, more than 30,000 people have received a first shot. Thousands stood in line for hours at vaccination points set up at hospitals in Sofia, with temperatures hovering around freezing. As of February 18th, 229,679 cases of COVID-19 had been reported in Bulgaria, with 9,624 cases. As of February 14th, about 200,000 vaccine doses have been delivered in Bulgaria, with more expected to arrive in the coming days.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Hello. Welcome again. We are back again. This is March. This is Women's History Month. I have a great show with a wonderful guest, a woman who, as they say, she stands out head and shoulders above. Well, she is a wonderful guest. She is one of the most dynamic women I've ever met. Truly ingenious individual who has has done a lot of things in her very short life. And so her name is Jolene Jang, and I'm going to be inviting her in. First, I want to really mention real quick, Women's History Month started in 1987. It picked the month of March, and this is also very important this year. 2021 is the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And for those of you who are constitutional scholars, the 19th Amendment gave women in this country the right to vote. So it's a 100-year celebration. So, anyway, we're ready to get going. I want to invite Jolene in, and we have got a great year coming up. Got a lot of stuff to cover. This is my musical theme song. We're going to bring Jolene in. Daniel, I'm ready. We are ready. All right. Yay! As always, it's so great to see you, Jolene. How are you doing? You look great. You look magnificent. Magnificent.
Thank you.
As I said, and I will say it on the air, I found you and I first met you. You were one of the most interesting people, one of the most fascinating individuals I've ever met, because I don't think there's anything that you haven't at least looked at, tried. You're projecting to do it or get involved with it, and I really just admire that, and especially because this is Women's History Month, and we're talking about women who are doing things that not everybody may know about, but I mean, like I said, there are women all around us who are doing just amazing things just like you. So anyways, thank you very much for coming on. And so back in your history, where you grew up, and I know a little bit about your background, where you grew up basically in the Seattle, greater Seattle area, correct? Up
Correct.
in the north end. You
north end in the suburbs.
Right, your suburbs, your burb. And you attended what high school again? You went
Inglemoor High School.
Inglemoor, that's right. That's over near Lake Washington or someplace. And you went to college, of course. And so you also have been involved before you even got into, and this is the truth, folks. I'm looking at a listing of people who do things like consulting, team building and stuff, and boom, I see her. And I said, It started off, I saw that thing, it said the fund specialist, right? That little piece that you did. And I said, well, I need to find out more about it. Then I followed it and I said, this is really interesting. Got a chance to talk to you and meet you. But you've been more than just doing that. And we're going to talk about that later on because you have had a real impressive track record working with Fortune 500 teams. But I want to ask you, on the personal side, you've been involved in some really interesting aspects of what's going on in our community. And one of those, and I wanted to talk about it real briefly, but you had been involved in presenting and for fighting for legislation. And I'll let you explain what that's about real quick, if you don't mind. I think that's important.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Good one. In a nutshell, I fought for legislation there's upskirting, and that's when somebody takes pictures or video up your skirt underneath your clothes, or down blousing. It's a thing, and it's very popular. And that happened to me in 2001, and I was the only adult, and so I fought for it. And now all the states have legislation around it, and international as well. So it was a good experience in crisis communication. I learned a lot. It was not fun, but it was important. And so that's my experience with that. And I have a talk called Speak Up for Justice. Mm-hmm. So there you have it in a nutshell.
Well, you're so humble. You were on national TV. You were interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, all that's correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, our own Jolene Jang on national TV being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey about that issue of upskirting. Thank you very much. So let's move into what I really find fascinating. Your corporate team building and you're a motivational speaker, team builder. You do a lot of different things, but you've been working with Fortune 500 Fortune 500 companies locally, and I think I'm assuming nationally. How did you get started in doing that? I mean, was that a natural progression, or is it just something you said, hey, this is, knowing you might have just said, hey, that sounds interesting. But anyways, go ahead, please share with us, would you, about who you work with, if you don't mind, and let's drill down in that.
Okay. Well, after college, I always wanted to wear suits and do lunch. And so I was saving my Aunt Janie's suits, her polyester suits, because I couldn't wear them after college. I was a business major from University of Puget Sound. And, but instead of going, I started as a balloon artist, kind of a long story. Let's see. So I'm scared of loud sound. So I wanted to conquer my fear. So I became a balloon artist in college for a part-time job. And then I was going to do that in the summer. And after I graduated, and it was just so much fun that I started a company around it. And then I was entertaining for kids and grand openings, et cetera. I thought, I'll make my connections with the radio stations, TV stations, and then I will get connections to marketing people, and then I will get a marketing job and do lunch and be in a suit. But I didn't go that route. I started my company, and then I had so much fun that I stuck with it. So I became the fun specialist, and I was entertaining people at first, but I really found joy in engaging with the adults. And the adults really got no love. I mean, they work so hard. Their kids are spoiled rotten. And certainly the ones that I work with, because I was kind of a high-end clients. And so I did the team building because that's where I got to work with the adults. And so that was just 25 years ago. So I became, people are saying, oh, do you do motivational speaking? And then, of course, you say yes. So I did a lot of team building and went that route, doing motivational speaking and bringing teams together. So it was with Microsoft, Starbucks, State Farm Insurance, and a lot of progressive companies, not so much state-oriented or the non-progressives. It was like the more tech companies.
Well, I mean, let me delve into that a little bit more. Okay, everyone hears those terms, team building, that kind of thing. What am I talking about? When we say team building, does that fit in every kind of scenario? Are we just talking about corporate America? Are we talking about in every phase of life? What is team building applicable there that way? Can you, in other words, can you do team building anywhere you're asked to perform that kind of a service? I guess it's a service as a consultant. So what, like I said, you also do motivational speaking. I'm going to get into that, but the team building aspect, you had to be one of the few women that was doing it that I'm aware of. Most of the team building that I saw, corporate level, were white guys. Man, let's face it, that was their bailiwick. So, how would you describe that in terms of your application of team building? You say you did Fortune 500 companies, you did major corporations here, but was it tough getting in? Was it easy getting in, or was it, like I said,
John? So regarding team building, that was I started team building when fun in the workplace was a thing, and so being young at that time, I think I was 26 when fun in the workplace was starting to be a thing. That's kind of old news now, in terms of fun in the workplace. But it was an advantage, I think, because I was the fun specialist, having the fun brand. And over the years, it's been 25 years, so I'm doing different things now. But yeah, team building is always applicable. And I attribute it to all my sports playing and all the different things I did growing up in college and everything. Team building, I do less of now. I'm on to a new thing. And I just saw that Mark asked what jump back into life means. Mm-hmm. So we can, I don't know if you had a follow-up or if I should address that.
Well, let me ask you this then.
Yes.
Well, jump back into life is really interesting there too. But I saw videos of you covering conferences. You were actually making the rounds, talking to people on camera, on video, online. And so you were a conference reporter. So how did you do that? I mean, what did that entail? Because you had a camera crew, etc. You used like I said, and most people don't. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I guess if we look at the timeline of things that I've done, I have not worked for the man. I did event planning for 7 days as an event planner for one season. And that was, and then when I got, for my business, I got so much media play and front page of the Times and the PI and all the TV stations for the fun specialists that I decided to go full time. And I stuck with that for the 25 years. I did team building for most of the time, but then I got divorced, and so you change it up a bit, and then I created the conference reporter, which is what you're referring to, where I was the eyes and ears using my camera stick and making the camera stick popular back then, and the microphone in one hand. And then after that, I had the flash badge, which is a cool thing to get attention. And so if we look at the timeline, I am always creating something that you have to explain. And so I'm entrepreneurial and always creating. And what I've done recently, let's see, after the conference reporter, is the whole jump back into life. And how that came to be was divorce. And after divorce, it's like, okay, well, what am I doing now? Because, I'm not into whatever I was doing. And so it's trying to figure out, how do I jump back into life? Because I had a boyfriend after that, and I was not happy. And I'm like, what's wrong? I'm the fun specialist. I am no good to the community if I am not having fun. And so after saying goodbye to him, I had to figure out, how do I jump back into life? Because I'm a happy person. How do I get back there? And then, so looking back at my track record, when was I the happiest? What was I doing? Who was I around? What was I wearing? And then looking at that, can I bring that back? Or what about these? And I ended up doing a talk about that. And for the Bellevue Downtown Association. And I actually talked about how to get your fun back. And then the last one was the Culture Explorer. And that is where I have the freedom. I don't have any kids or spouses, or a spouse, no spouses either, or animals or anything. And so I can run around the world. And so a lot of people stay in their bubble and they're limited, and I am not. And that bores me. So I actually can get out there and hear a lot of stories. And so I've created some video stories, women who go for it. And these are women who I respect and I know, and that they can be mentors to other women. And then I have a show called Different Than Me, where people who are different than me, because there's a lot of people who are busy, but also don't really want to meet, I don't know, a blind person or a person who's deaf or a person who has long hair or whatever, but I can interview them and share different perspectives. And I think that if we can understand some different perspectives, then we can be friendlier. So we're kind of up to speed till almost what I'm about to do, but go ahead.
But no, and then I also notice, well, first of all, I got to ask you this. It's a very personal question. You are a woman. You are a woman of Asian descent. Did you have any kind of issue because you are a woman, because you are Asian? I mean, you're not, the stereotype of Asian women are very quiet, demure, they, serve their man, all that kind of stuff. You're anything but. No, I don't mean that in a negative way, but you assert, you're very, outspoken in a positive way. You tell people, I always known you to say what's on your mind, which is good. I've never had to ponder that, but did you feel any pushback against that? Because you broke the mold as an Asian woman. Let's just be honest. Yeah.
I don't know, because my personality is strong.
Yes.
I was never taught to, hey, it's going to be tough for you. I didn't have the talk that, let's say, first generation people have or Black kids have. I didn't have that talk. And being fourth generation Japanese, Chinese, Swedish, my parents are very Americanized, and I was a great athlete and a pretty decent student and very involved. So I already broke the stereotype. So as an adult, being that my personality is louder, if there was, I didn't pay attention because I'm competitive. And so I feel strongly for helping other people. And that's why I also started the speech, Aren't Asians All Alike? Because people,
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. People are not familiar. And so I want to, break stereotypes, but also educate of the differences of so many Asians that you just have to talk to some. So,
well, again, that's what I find so fascinating. You are, and I don't mean that in a negative way. You are just so unique, because you do speak out, you do say what's on your mind, but you also engage people because that's your personality. So I can see why you are the three-term president of the Washington State Speakers Association. I mean, that's obvious. I mean,
but I will say with that organization, which is one of the best organizations I've ever been to, because you asked, well, being a woman and being Asian, I will say that being young and being an entertainer at the time, or being entertaining when I went to the national conferences, and I went to all of them. It was extremely valuable organization, but I felt age discrimination, and I felt, I was too smiley. I heard about that. I'm too smiley. I'm too fun. And there was a lot of arrogance there. And I'm not going to call that an Asian thing. It was just something. I would say more age, and that I was new. I was like 1 out of like 7, at like 2,500 people at the time. And by the way, I am always there's almost no minorities ever in any groups that I'm in. So
that's interesting, because but like I said, you're so into everything. I think it was a joke, but I said, hey, this is John. Have you invaded any countries lately? And I did follow you on Facebook. You were so kind when you went to Southeast Asia. So now, what's this about a men's soccer team? You kind of, what's the connection with men's soccer with you on this?
I'm very active, so I'm athletic, and there's a number of soccer, So I play soccer at noon. It used to be, before COVID, a lot, with a lot of 24 to 45-year-olds.
Co-educational, with guys?
No, it's men. There may be one woman, one other woman here and there.
What position did you play?
I'm playing the center,
center fielder. Okay.
Yeah, I like to be in the action.
It's obvious that that's the kind of thing. So in your travels around the world, and you literally, and I got to get in. Hey, I'm going off. I'm going to talk.
Yes, you are. You're going off. Let's go, John. Let's get back on track.
No. What about your travels around the world? Do they readily identify you as an American? Did you just kind of blend in? What was your, just give me your
John, whenever I go, I've been to Japan, and then I just went to, Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand. I think that I'm seen as an American. I walk heavy. I'm different looking, I look at people in the eyes. So I think I'm definitely seen as American. You mentioned the Southeast Asia, the whole jump back into life, when life gets too comfortable, when it's too, when I'm not taking a risk, when I don't get nervous, also a marker for me is that if I'm not called crazy, every other month or so, then I'm not doing it right. So that's the recent trip I took, the spontaneous trip to Cambodia, a country I knew nothing about. That was because I needed to do something different. I was kind of doing the same things. And so as a complete planner, I took 7 days to plan that trip and not plan it. I mean, I knew I'd have shelter for the first 3 days because I wanted to force myself to be uncomfortable. And our conversation tonight is about how do you boost your curiosity so you can generate different ideas. And that's what I do. I gather up all sorts of experiences and I dabble into things I don't know about. I listen to different topics to get more data to work from. And that's what I would like to share with your listeners about how you can do that. And that 6-week trip was for me to shake it up, to just go blindly in and see how I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I know what, I kind of get a sense of what you're doing now, but what?
I haven't told you yet.
No, I know. But the other thing is, I know we talked about you building a chicken coop. You've done roofing. You've done a concrete pour. You've done appliances. You've done plumbing. You've done all these wonderful electrical. You do it. That's why I call you the do-it-yourself queen of the Pacific Northwest. So from that standpoint, you have ideas of how people can get the kind of thing, the knowledge they need, the materials, the supplies. I know we did a discussion on that. I'm going to come to you and say, well, what can you teach me about doing a project in my home? How did you do it? And we're going to lead into the second part today. But give us a rundown of how you look at a project.
Well, during this last year, during this last year, I went outside for some escapism and the luxury of actually being at home. And what I found myself doing is dreaming. I would look around because I had more time. I never am at home. I'm never outside. I'm always on my computer or out and about in downtown. I'm an extreme extrovert. But I thought I would take this time to be outside, and I would spend maybe 10 minutes not moving around, not doing, just thinking and imagining and dreaming. And I would think, wow, if I'm going to paint my house, I got to move all this stuff. Oh, what's on the side of my house? Oh, wood. There's wood stacked up, firewood. Well, you know what? I bet you I need a wood shed. Okay. I think there's space for one over there. Okay. So then at night, I would go inside and pop on Pinterest, woodshed. And then I would look around and figure out, what woodshed do I want? What supplies do I have? And then I would look at 15 different ideas, and then I would build it. So I would look around, what is the need? And then I would build it. And then in terms of supplies, what do I have? What else could I use? And so I actually I am impressed that I built a bunch of things, and they're for free and out of salvage. There's only a few things that I had to pay for because I was being resourceful. And a lot of these things, thank you. I was just able to pick up goods from other people's houses. They're like, oh my gosh, I have all these bricks, or I have this wood we're taking down our deck. Please take this away. So I was able to be resourceful.
So I know, and I think you shared with me how you would go to, I think, job sites or ask, if there's like materials left over or something like that. And I think you even negotiated to get this. But then I saw you wearing a harness, and you were going up above to, I think, do a roof, right? You're roofing. You've done that in your home. And again, and we're going to move into this, but I've got to ask you, how many women do we know that are going to put a harness on, a safety harness, and climb up and do a roof? And secondly, I know it's out of necessity, but how did you get that information? What did you learn about that? I mean, people need to know that. That's what I'm asking.
So how I address all the things, first of all, it is exciting for me to go and do things I haven't done before. First, hashtag first. That's what I like to do because my brain is fully on. And also, when I'm up on the roof, I cannot think about what's happening in politics or COVID. I really have to concentrate. And so that is why I went outside. I left the computer for some escapism. Right. And I just look, how do you do these things on the roofs? And I saw, there's the fall protection guide. And then there's the code. And then reading up on that. So it's learning from my tech friends how to research these things. And I also have construction friends, so I can reach out, hey, what is this thingamajig called? So I've really used my outlet to ask, how do I find these keywords, and what do you think about this? It is a crowdsource thing, and what I would like to impart on to your listeners is that you can do anything you want, and there's a video out there, and to use your network, because I was able to meet a lot of people, even though I didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything, because people in the neighborhood wanted to help me. I said, hey, can I borrow this axe? And then, right. And I had 5 people wanting to help me and cut my wood for me. People want to be helpful. And I have asked for what I wanted to borrow, or, hey, does anybody have some 2x4s? Does anybody have some corrugated plastic? So that was how I was able to source. And I'm also doing them a favor. And you don't get into these things done if you don't ask. And I think people are scared to ask. So I've been really fortunate to be able to have $50,000 or $60,000 worth of structures and things for free. So
that is so interesting, and you learned a lot of other stuff. But you took a sabbatical. You took leave from your computer for a long while, an erstwhile time. What was that about? Did you just get tired of dealing with the computer and
No, I love the computer, but it was almost a year ago that for me, March 7th was the last day that I had people over to my dining table. And I didn't want to contribute to COVID, so I stayed home. And as an extreme extrovert, that could have been really difficult. And what I wanted to share with your listeners is when you can start to push boundaries now, it's going to be easier when we go back to work to adapt to change.
Yeah.
And for me to stay home after, when I go to Seattle, I go to like 2 to 4 events a day because I'm efficient. I want to batch, make use of my parking and my driving, etc. And then for me to stay home, then it's a big change. But I loved my time this last year. Besides all the death and chaos and ridiculousness and heck that we went through, me personally, it was fantastic. All this time to use my right brain and to create and to build, to be green. It was amazing. Yeah, it was a respite. So it wasn't. And before I left my computer, I was working on those speeches I talked about. Aren't they all alike? Right. And the whole idea of innovation. Okay. But because of COVID and politics, my brain was lost. I couldn't think anymore. So that's when I went outside.
And hold on to that thought, because we're going to come back a part 2. Hey, I have as a special guest Jolene Jang. I call her affectionately the DIY of the Pacific Northwest. We'll be right back with part 2. All right, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, Seattle here and now. We'll be right back, folks. Thank you.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
March is Women's History Month, and this year's theme is Giant Women of the Vote Refusing to be Silenced. It pays homage to the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote here in the United States. Please stay tuned to Rainier Avenue Radio.world for shows and special programs highlighting and dedicated to honoring women on Women's History Month here. Please check us out at www.rainieravenueradio.world.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
5 million children in the U.S. rely on public schools for English, and those kids have been hit hard by online schooling. Per NPR, children learning English are more likely to struggle in school and drop out, and school districts in several states, including Maryland, Virginia, and California, already have data showing these students are falling further behind. Among the challenges, there are fewer resources for teaching English learners remotely, and many English learners are less likely to have access to technology. Even in a school district like Prince George's, which has distributed free devices and mobile Wi-Fi units, these children may not have the support at home to navigate technology. One educator said when children are learning another language, it's important for them to see the nuances of communication, such as facial expressions or other nonverbal signs. But those are harder to make out on a screen.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
When should you wear a mask? For almost everyone, every time you go out. Like for coffee, when you ride the bus, or head out to care for your parents. When you go to work, spend the afternoon at the park, or pick up some dinner on your way home. Whatever you do, wearing a mask is essential because it works to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and it helps keep Washington open. Mask up to open up, Washington. Coronavirus.wa.gov. This message brought to you by the state of Washington.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
All right, we are back as soon as we get the theme song. Thank you very much for Daniel. Thank you very much, Jolene. Let me ask you this, and I appreciate your prompt, but you talk about jump back into life. What does that mean? What is the message you're sending with jump back into life? It's on the backdrop. It's on the promos that we did. But you know, what is that? What are you saying when you say jump back into life? And I know we've been talking about the impact COVID has, and everything is just downturned and all that. But give me your take, and please jump back into life.
Well, jump back into life these days. I see that I have been outside for this last year, and I just came inside the last month to see what's happening in the corporate world, because that's where I usually live. And what I've seen is that it's a disaster, and that companies are, I think your music is still on in the background.
Can we get
cutting out? If you can stop that.
Yeah.
What I've seen is that the virtual meetings are disjointed. People are distracted. They're not taking it seriously, and it's not effective. And companies are wasting money by that time. And also people are hiring people without. And so I was talking to my friend the other day, and she says, well, they try and have happy hours where you eat together virtually, and it's just weird, and it's not effective. And taking my background as a team builder and as the meeting maximizer, learning how to, I know how to streamline agendas, but also as a facilitator, I know how to be inclusive. So I'm going to take those skills of mine and help corporate. And the idea to jump back in life, people are getting vaccinated, and so companies are starting to open up, and people will actually be going back to work soon enough, and it's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward, and companies are going to be suffering because they don't know, well, how close should our desks be when we have a meeting? How close do we sit? Do we shake hands? What do we do with our clients? So there's going to be all these unknowns, and I'm going to help as a reintegration consultant. I'm going to help write the standard operating procedures that's going to work for them, and their meetings that are going to be kind of remote-ish and physical. How do you handle that? How can you make those more effective? And so the whole jump back into life, it's coming, but it's going to be different. It's a new normal. So how do you get ready for that? And so what I would like to do before we get there is help the companies, but also for the individuals out here. People don't like change. So what I'd like to share is, how do you get used to change, and how can that benefit you?
So I can't think of a better person in a prescriptive way that could help these companies get back to going to that, quote, normalcy that we hope will happen. And I think would you say that's one of the positive elements that's come up? What COVID, to me, and I'm just going to give you my take on what's positive, COVID has really got us to evaluate who we are as people. What do you think in terms of that? Because, what has been positive about the COVID era? I know the deaths and the sickness and all that, and the politicizing, but what is the positive element that, if there is one, from your perspective?
I do. I mean, I certainly see all the negatives. We don't need reminders of that, but the positives, people don't like change. They're not going to change unless they're forced to. And diagnosis, divorce, and death. That's when people change. When they're and with COVID, it's like you have to change. And I think that the positive of that is people need to adjust. They need to flex that muscle, because there's going to continue to be changes. And if you are complacent and I always do it this way, I always eat this way, I always do this, I only am friends with these type of people. First of all, I think that's really boring. But also, they're not going to be adaptable for when things come down the line. And I am a big promoter of curiosity, because that's where the different ideas come from. The spontaneous trip to Cambodia, and to Burning Man, and to South Africa, and the cold plunge. I mean, things that were kind of crazy to me. Now my brain library is much larger. I don't live in such a tiny bubble. It's a little bit bigger. And so I have more to work with. And because of COVID, people are forced to change. And I think that there's going to be a lot of new ways and new inventions. And so I think that's positive. I get sick of people not changing. So,
well, it's obvious you've been able to deal with this last year with the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns and all this. You've been able to manage your way through it. but there has been an uptick in issues of domestic violence, all the negative things that have been happening, murder, suicide, all of this stuff. Going on to a more positive subject, so I hear you say how boosting your curiosity will help your career. How is that going to help my career? Well, I'm retired. I don't really have a career left, but let's say I'm starting off. So
John, let's say you're retired.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot. You've done, you're a private detective. You've done all sorts of things. You met all sorts of people. You're in the most diverse zip code. So you've done a lot. Is there anything new under the sun? So I want to tell you, yeah, there is. There's a ton that you don't know out there, and to get you excited about what you don't know. And so that's because I don't want you to get old and shrivel up because you've done everything. I'm not engaged in life anymore.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And that happens. And I know lots of people your age and older, a lot, because I've met a bunch of them. And it's just like they just hang on to the one thing. Mm-hmm. And there's much more out there, and it's healthier. In terms of your career, the people who are creative and innovative, that's who I want to hire.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like the brainstorms that I'll be doing is getting people outside of the homogenous group. Because when you can get diversity of thought, you can come up with so many more ideas.
Well, that is great because, I was going to get politics to run. There was a position open as dog catcher, but I said, I better not. I don't want to run as a dog catcher. So in all seriousness, so you're saying lack of curiosity, I guess you could say also leads to stagnation as an individual. There's just nothing going on. There's no challenges. I'm like you. I like challenges. I like things. But however, we have to be cautious about that. But how can we prepare ourselves for this is going to be the new normal? Let's just face it. It's not going to be the same anymore. People talk, get back to normal. There is not a normal anymore. Things have changed. Well, how do we get back to that? How can we prepare? How can I get you? I hire you to work with my employees. How can I prepare them for the new normal that's coming or that new normal that's here? How would you approach that?
Okay, there's a lot of questions there. But I would say to your listeners right now, start doing something differently. It's like, do it different. Last year, extreme extrovert, but then stayed home the whole time, didn't talk to anybody, wasn't on the phone, wasn't on social media, just doing it different. Everything I did was different. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was able, right now, my mind is like exploding with like creativity. And it's just, I don't want to be a braggart about it, but I come up with ideas all the time. I'm like, where does this come from? Because I did it differently. And I'm not in neuroscience, but when you're in routine, your brain is not on. You really need to do different things in order to get this noggin to turn on. But for your listeners, I would say little exercises that they can do is do differently. And I would say, listen, watch, and do. And for example, I'll take you to this website. So this is, John, what's a topic that you would like to learn more about?
Oh, gee, about how the vaccine works, let's say, what the heck?
Vaccine.
Yep.
So I am on Listen Notes right now. Listen Notes. I'm currently at a podcast festival. And so there are 234 results of podcasts that talk about vaccines. So you can, how can you start to do things differently? Look at another topic. And I would say, look at topics you're interested in and start listing different perspectives about it. But also, I listen to Science Fridays. I don't know much about science, but with Science Fridays, they talk about bullfrogs, and they talk about vaccines, and they talk about a bunch of other things, and it gets me thinking. Mm-hmm. And if you can feed your mind all sorts of different sources, you're going to be more informed. You're going to be more interesting when you talk to people, and you're going to come up with different ideas.
So how did you find these sites? Are these just places you look for them? If I'm the curious person, I just got to delve into it and go into those sites like that?
Well, whenever I used to be on Facebook a lot, and there were different events, and want the Genome Conference. Okay, I don't even know what a genome is. I should go. If I have time, I should go. And so I went, and I absorbed about 30% of what it was. But I talked to a guy who was butterfly farming, and was learning about the genomes, and he was mapping it out and this and that. And you just get to hear so many different perspectives. And then I go to a space thing, and then I go to a farmer's thing. And so you start to see some similarities, and why don't we use this from over here to address this? So it's like a Scrabble game. A lot of people have 7 tiles to work from. I have like 4,000 to work from. And so I have more sources that I can weave together. And some of the things, go ahead.
No, that's amazing. Well, like I said, folks, she's the most unique person I've met. I mean, seriously, in my lifetime. I have to be very honest about that. So let me ask you this. When are you going to write your book? Can I get a free copy? Handwritten, signed copy of your book?
So books.
Your book.
So books are not as important to me. I would have a ghostwriter. I'm more action oriented. So I will have a slew of a lot of videos around boundary pushing. I currently have a number of them that talk about boundary pushing, what you can do. You can wear things differently. You can act differently, and all the different small things to get that curiosity muscle going. Okay. And I went to a video conference last week, and then I went to the YouTube conference a couple of years ago, and then currently I'm at a global podcast. So I will have lots of, I have ridiculous amounts of content, and now I'm learning the processes so I can churn that out very shortly.
Are you going to, when this thing kind of dies down, are you going to go back into the corporate world, training and doing team building and things like that? Is that also on your agenda right now? I'm just asking you.
Yes. So right now, as of the last couple of weeks, it really is about being their reintegration consultant because it is necessary. And physical, I mean, when things get back to normal, I'm going to be safe about it. I'm rather COVID safe. But right now it's virtual meetings. How can we make these virtual meetings better? And I do have ideas on that. And because I've consumed so many in this last month, and with my background as facilitation, I can do that. One of the things I'll be doing very shortly is called Games and Gab. And I've been doing this with my friends, like 6 to 8 friends or so. And it's a great way to get to know each other in a fun way. And I've run about 9 of them recently. And these are friends, I know them, but I've got to know them in a different kind of way than I never would have. So I will be rolling that out to individuals, and then I will employ some of those to corporate as well.
Hey, I want to get in touch with you. I don't need your phone number, but I need your website. What is it?
So JoleneJang.com and Jolene Jang on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. My main is Facebook, and then it will be YouTube. And then LinkedIn has a lot of new things as well. So in terms of having better meetings, virtual meetings right now, they're pretty terrible. So they need to be streamlined. First of all, let's make them shorter, but also make them interactive. And I've seen enough to know what the problems are, and I'll be doing meeting audits for them. So what that is, I will evaluate in the background and then give them a report and then train the managers how to do these better. That is my wheelhouse, and I have a short attention span, and I'm not super patient. And so that equips me to be able to do very well with this. So meeting audits.
Oh, that's very interesting. So that's your roadmap coming up in this time. But what do you do for? Okay, personal question. What do you do for fun and relaxation?
I just had some cookies. But I build, like, for example, I built and I'll share this on my Facebook. I have pictures of some of the do-it-yourself things that I've done. Right now, for one of my lights here, I made a tripod out of a salad dressing jar and nails. This light that hangs from the ceiling, I took apart a tripod and took the telescoping part, inverted it upside down.
So you could make it go up and down, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then I also, I'll show you a studio tour of all the different things. So I build stuff. It is so fun to be creative and
Where's your lamp? Where's the lamp that you built? Do you have a
that is
picture
in the
of
other
that?
room. I do have video.
Okay.
I have videos of a tour of my house, of the upcycling that I've done.
And we can get to that by going to your site, right?
Jolene, on my YouTube.
Okay, YouTube. Well, we are on YouTube right now. We do broadcast and we're on Facebook, etc. So those are the things that you say you're working on. You're contemplating doing some other things as we move away from this pandemic. And
I'm not contemplating, John. Let me be clear.
Okay.
So,
all right. Clarify. Yeah, very good.
Reintegration Consultant, that's underway.
That's going on now. Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
So no. It seems so. Well, how dare I think that you would be sitting still for anything? And so that's just how I know you. That I know nothing. You're always looking for different things and moving out there and doing some really good quality stuff too. Like I said, what fascinated me was when you working as a fund specialist and the things that you were doing. I just got a kick out of that. But I know everything you do is quality because you spend the time. But if I want to do this, the whole purpose of what I wanted to bring you on is say, hey, I know she's doing this, but what if I want to do it? What if I'm listening in? If she can do it, how can I do it? What can I do? I'm not trying to be a copycat, but let's say my curiosity is that I want to be just like her, do just like she's doing, those things. How would you get started? How would you tell somebody to get started?
Well, I imagine what you're saying is I want to be a learner, somebody who's not afraid to learn. And I would say what holds people back is that they don't have the confidence. So step up your confidence and you can learn anything. I think that's the difference between, there's a couple of things. I have ambition and I have confidence. We all can have know-how. And I think that you just have to step in and say, you know what? I'm going to try and fix this thing. I was doing electrical last week, and I'm not saying do electrical, and I take no liability, but there's so many, there are YouTube videos, and then you ask the people who know. And so you just have to go for it. I mean, women who go for it, I think that's
what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And be safe. Don't do electrical, but do something else.
Plumbing. Let's do plumbing.
No, I would not suggest electrical or plumbing. I would say starts with arts and crafts or fixing something. I fix a washing machine and taking apart. If something is broken, take it apart. I have some videos of taking our microwave apart. It's pretty neat. And you get to learn the principles of engineering since I'm not equipped like that. But now having done it a number of times, so it's just being curiosity and then going for it. And I do have a lot of ways to train people to start being curious. And it is like, this small example, start listening to something different, and start hanging out with different people or talking to different people. Listen to different music, watch different things. It's like fill your head with something different so you can have more Scrabble tools to pull from. Like
you say, you have thousands of tiles for Scrabble. So I've got an idea of what we have in store for us coming up from you. Do you have any, going back, do you have any projects right now? Any build-outs, build-ups, remodels, anything going on right now? Or are you wrapped up in doing this? I'm
focusing because my brain is back in my head and I have pretty good manage over it. I'm focusing on business now.
Okay, right. We talked about,
Yeah, so that's my focus. And for funsies, that's when I will do the tour and fix doing the electrical for the studio. And I have a green screen on the other side of the screen. And that's for fun. But it's going to be heads down business. I mean, I've been at this global podcast. I've been sitting here from 5:30 in the morning
Whoa.
till late at night, and I have a program at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow, and so I'm pretty serious about it.
That is something. Yeah. Oh wow. That is. So motivate me. Get me motivated. Get me motivated because I want to boost my curiosity. How can you help me? What can you do to get me motivated so I can boost my curiosity? Because all I've been doing sitting around, getting larger, eating a lot of stuff, and watching depressing CNN and all that stuff. What can you do to motivate me to boost my curiosity? Can you help me?
First of all, you have to help yourself. And is that what you want? Do you want to sit around getting fat? Okay.
Yep. Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Right.
But is it who are you around? What kind of sources do you take in? What do you listen to? And what is your guiding source? Find that North Star. And then when you decide that you want to be different, then I can help you.
Well, that makes sense. But what if people have a hard time finding that? Let's be honest. Not everybody is directed like you. Not everybody is motivated like you for a lot of reasons.
Well, I would say find people who are motivated. And I have a number of people. I think that's what attracts people to me, is that I am positive and I'm motivated. And I also keep people who are positive around me. I have no room for any negativity around me. I think it's important to meet negative people, but they are not in my inner circle. And it's, who do you surround yourself with? And if nobody's positive, I don't care. I'll just be with myself and talk to myself, which I do all the time. But it's, you have to want help is out there. You have to want help.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, what you talk about is, well, again, changing oneself comes from within, and I agree. You have to want to change, though, too. I think there's this penchant for people want an instant fix. Help me get better. No, you have to want to get better yourself. It's the same thing when I work with addicted individuals. Hey, I can't make you stop your addiction. You have to want it. That kind of thing. So what you're talking about, getting back into the world, and you're going to be doing consulting and stuff and things like that. You've got your site going. You've done a number of projects over the last year. And one of the things that I want to ask people is, what would you have done differently? If I could just really quick, we're going to be wrapping up soon, but what would you have done differently, if there's anything, looking back, being reflective on it?
In my life?
Just in your life, in the last year, in the last
I would say when I went to go visit the University of Puget Sound, my niece was up here, and that's where I went to. I thought I was well-rounded. I was president of the Asian Club. I was on the tennis team. I was in the Hawaiian Club. I was on the soccer team. I was in the Kiwanis Club. I taught piano to this Vietnamese. I was poor. I thought I was doing it. Oh no, there was a whole whole area that I didn't know about, and there's people that I didn't know. And be just, it was a rich school anyway, so you're going to meet a bunch of rich people, but at least they could be different rich. And I wish I would have known to just always go somewhere else, go wander in this direction, see if you meet somebody. And I wish I could have taken advantage of the diversity on the campus and have done some drama something, or some art thing, or there's buildings I didn't even know existed. So that was really a bummer that I just discovered recently.
Well, no, that's thank you. Thank you for being very candid about it, because I look at you. What is her? She has no limitations, folks. She's not limited in any way, because you are who you are. But, thank you for sharing that. I always, you look back and say, what have I learned? I guess that's also part of the learning experience. And so, yeah, it's a very important piece. So I really want to thank you. We're going to be wrapping up. We're going to get back again. I have to have you on my show again at sometime in the very near future. I'm getting my second vaccination next week, so I'll be good to go. I hope your folks are doing well. You, as always, have been a great guest. Thank you very much, Jolene. Give us a rundown as to where people can contact you again. Give it to us again on air.
Jolene Jang, and Facebook and YouTube are my majors. Facebook and YouTube, Jolene Jang. And I have exercises there of boundary pushing, which we were talking about, and I also have some of the creative DIY that I've done on my Facebook.
Yep. Thank you very much. Hey, great show. Thank you, Jolene Jang, the do-it-yourself queen of the Pacific Northwest. I thank you, and that's my joke to you. Thank you very much. Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio. Tune in, stay tuned in to Pat and Must Be the Next on Metro Sports Weekly. Jolene, as always, from my heart, thank you very much. Great guest. Thank you.